POTUS is taking on the world, and he is reshaping the world in such a way that the people are taken unawares. Nobody expected him to line up with Putin, shake hands with Putin, talk to him, and take on the challenge of the Ukraine. What is the challenge of the Ukraine? The whole world, especially the leftist woke system, is not bothered about the fairness of the justice of things. It is their emotion that rules them. For example, when the Gaza war is still taking place, when it was fully operational, nobody bothered about the death of the 1,500 Jews. Nobody bothered about the rape, the killing of children, the burning of children, the killing of women, the kidnapping of women, keeping them isolated from their families. On what? It was a cowardly attack by a group of people who were calling themselves freedom fighters. Are they freedom fighters? They are terrorists in whatever form you may call. So you had a huge group which was backing the terrorist organization and talking fairness for them. How can you have fairness for a terrorist organization? We all called Hitler a man who had no principles, who was a criminal, and after the World War, at the Nuremberg trials, so many Germans were killed, were executed based on the information received and how they carried out the Holocaust on the Jews. I'm not talking backing these Jews because of the Holocaust. I'm talking about the truth, the system which is operating. In the 1990s, when the Kashmiris in Kashmir were thrown out, such a thought process was not there. But why is it that a kidnapper, a killer, a rapist, a child killer is exonerated and said that he is fighting for his rights and land? Is that the way we should think? Well, I'm not going to the history. I'm not looking at what happened because of the Balfour Declaration and how Israel was formed. I'm not talking about all that. There is a history behind it. Whether it was right or wrong at that time, we do not know. But today, there are countries. And why am I talking about that and relating it to all this going round in circles? No. I'm coming round to the point that why is Trump standing up to Zelensky? Because it is a never-ending war. And then sometimes it may turn into a nuclear world war, and who's going to benefit? Nobody is going to be the beneficiary. The loser will be the world. There will be utter destruction. After World War II, what happened to Nagasaki? And what happened? And we must look at it. You must keep history behind and reflect it from that angle. Let us stop the war. And how can it happen? Let us accept the reality. And that is where Europe lost its sight. At the time when Gorbachev was offered the Nobel Prize with a few pennies thrown in to surrender the USSR, and at that time he was promised that NATO will not enter those countries which formed part of the USSR. But was that promise kept? It was broken. And what happened? All those countries started joining NATO, and finally they found that NATO was on the borders of Russia. It is trying to establish its rule on the border of Russia. Which country will accept it? Europe had broken its treaty with truth. It does not live with the truth. The truth was that USSR, those that form, this countries that form part of the USSR will not be form of NATO, but we broke every rule, we broke every justice principle, and we went against it, and everybody became a NATO member. Okay, I'm not saying right or wrong again. Well, it is their own dependent condition. But if I was Putin, I would not like people who have broken the word to come now and say that I will now come to your borders and put my guns there and put the boots on the ground. Will I accept it? Why should Russia accept it? Russia has lived, it's kept up its word. It never invaded anybody after that, except maybe Poland once, I think so, or Czechoslovakia for some time. But other than that, it has kept up its word. It went about its business. Though it was isolated, though it was criticized, though it was bullied, it kept on moving at its own pace as far as possible what it was capable of. But the Europe broke its, what I call it, the truth edifice. And when they wanted to establish their masked anti-Russian activity by coming onto the borders of Russia, Russia warned NATO. He said, please do not encourage Ukraine to be a part of NATO. They argued, they discussed, they sent information, they gave signals. In spite of that, EU said, hey, what is Russia going to do? Let us take a chance. And they took a chance, and now they're learning the lesson. And today, when the biggest arms supplier of Ukraine says, I'm sorry, I'm not going to supply arms to the Ukraine. I want this war to stop. I want the people of Ukraine to be safe. I don't want this war to be continued only for the sake of an ego problem between a number of countries and Russia. I'm willing to take the straight step forward and find out whether there can be a reconciliation between Russia and the world, including Ukraine. And why are people getting upset? Why should they feel upset? Because they all felt that they lived in a happy world. If the gravy train will continue to go, America will continue to spend its money, and America will still have increased its homeless, become a greater debtor country, and the other people will live off the butter of their land, and they never feel the feet on the ground. That is what Europe happened. And POTUS has said, no, my friend, there is an earth, a ground beneath your feet. You should put your feet on the ground, feel it, and only then you'll understand how difficult it will be to walk on it when it is muddy, if it is swampy, if it is with a lot of debris on it. Only then you'll feel that there is a ground beneath you. We have saved all the trouble for you, and you are walking on happily on water, on soft mattress, and now they have exposed it, the weak part of your EU. And that is the reality, that there is a ground beneath their feet which they should start feeling and find out whether they can have a better EU, a better European society which honors its deals, which honors its words, and keeps the world now on a true, travel of liberalization and economic development. And that is what POTUS has done. We should appreciate POTUS in one way, though it is irritating for many of us that he has shaken the world. It's like taking a cat or a dog and shaking him by the neck. Yes, that is what he has done. But there is a reality behind it which I think we have forgotten in the long past 40 years, or I would say 30 years. And I would like to link that to what is happening in India today, and how India is going to, now we have to refashion and what do you call it, just like a carpenter, we have to look at it differently, chisel away certain parts, find out what will be the end game, and how the product which you are going to give out now today in the market is going to be a chiseled beautiful product from India. I'll continue.